is the time to challenge our thinking and take note of what science is actually telling us. And if we change our mindset about stress, we can then change the way our bodies respond to stress. Stress is overwhelming. Our fight or flight, the threat response is triggered, and our brain starts to shut down all non-essential processes, including access to part of our memory and our cognitive networks, making it harder to think clearly and logically. I'm sure you've all experienced it when you've been under pressure, quite a great deal of pressure, and the latest terminology that's bandied about is brain fog. We find it very difficult to kind of think logically and clearly. However, if we change the way we think about stress, we can change that threat response into a challenge response. And by viewing the stress response as a resource, something that is there to help us. So when a challenge response is triggered, it gives us greater access to all our senses and resources. Yes, our heart may still be pounding, but if we are in this positive challenge response mindset, then our blood vessels remain relaxed, allowing more blood to flow to the brain. Our attention maintains an open kind of status. We're more aware of the situation, what's going on, rather than that laser focus that we tend to get when we're in our fight or flight. Now, Harvard University suggests that we should, when we're experiencing stress, we should remind ourselves, okay, I'm feeling stressed out, and that's a resource I can use to help me. The challenge response, when we change our mindset from this negative stress response to a challenge response, a much more positive kind of energy, actually makes us smarter when we are stressed. Randomly, just pick on one person that's in the webinar at the moment and ask you, and I want you to imagine that I'm going to pick on you. And if I was to ask you to count backwards from 996 in increments of 7, you have to count out loud and as fast as you can. And the rest of us on this webinar are just going to be here listening to you and judging how well you are doing. How do you think your body's likely to respond? Definitely go into panic. And when we go into that panic state, then typically our heart starts pounding. We break out into a sweat. We start breathing faster. Now, these are all typical physiological responses to stress. But what if we change that thinking about those physiological responses? Our heart pounding is actually us getting ready for action. The faster breathing means that we're getting more oxygen to the brain. Our physiological responses are actually priming us for the challenge. They're going to help us there. They're a resource that's there to help us to rise to the challenge. Today, people were put under similar stressful conditions, and they were buddied up in pairs, and they were asked to count backwards from 996 in increments of 7, and the other person wasn't so much judging them, but the other person that they were paired with was asked to actually keep interrupting them and annoying them, trying to distract them, basically. Now, what the kind of outcomes were, the people who the stress response has been helpful, the physiological responses has been helpful, were more confident, they were less anxious. And that physical response actually started to change. So typically when we're experiencing stress, our heart rate goes up, our blood vessels constrict. But the individuals who viewed the stress response as being helpful, their blood vessels remained opened. Their physical response was actually more similar to what we'd observe when somebody is being courageous, and perhaps even in moments of joy, a little bit of touch of excitement in there. So to help us change the way we view our experience of stress, we need to start telling ourselves, this is my body preparing me to rise to the challenge I'm facing. So perhaps a little bit of a mantra, you might want to even put it on a post-it note or post-it notes and pop them around your house or your workspace. So this is my body preparing me to rise to the challenge. We're actually changing that mindset to a stress is enhancing type of mindset.